Not really sure how to start this video because I feel like it's honestly something I wasn't sure I was going to disclose, but you've seen the title of the video, so this video is obviously about my co-occurring disorders, ADHD and addiction, substance use disorder. If you've been here before, you know my story a little bit. If you're new to my channel, what's up? I'm Megan. I'm a recovering heroin addict. Been in recovery since 2008. I like to share videos about my experience in addiction and recovery and basically how I've rebuilt my life since. I do so as a form of addiction advocacy, especially because I'm a huge proponent for medication-assisted treatment, which is Suboxone. But that's still kind of taboo in the addiction recovery community. I'm trying to break that stigma down. I'm trying to stop that. But at the same time, there are parts of my recovery and my mental health that I just haven't shared. I have a lot of reasons why I haven't shared this with you. Mostly because treating my mental illnesses or mental health in general does not take away from my recovery and all of the work I put into it. However, I know that I'm not sharing it because I'm afraid of being judged, which that goes against what I'm doing for Suboxone. You know, I'm trying to advocate for these things so that we can break down the stigma. It's a missed opportunity if I don't speak up. Before I tell you my story, I'm going to give you a little bit of the psychology/science behind it. So co-occurring disorders are very common. They used to be referred to as dual diagnosis or dual disorder, and now they are called co-occurring disorders or comorbidity. All of these refer to the existence of two mental illnesses at once. That means that someone had substance use disorder and another mental illness. Treatment is going to have to be very multidimensional and holistic in nature. You're gonna have to treat the whole person instead of just one disorder at a time. Statistics for co-occurring disorders are very high. Approximately 50% of people with a mental illness, especially an untreated mental illness, will also have substance abuse problems. And more than half of all people with a substance use disorder have a diagnosable mental illness as well. The Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration recommend an integrated approach to treatment. This starts with behavioral therapies at the base and then can add medication after. So co-occurring disorders require you to focus on the individual as a whole. Therefore, treatment of co-occurring disorders is very individualized, much like recovery. So this is my story, and my story is exactly that. Mine. I am the oldest sibling and I have one younger sister. She is also diagnosed with ADHD, and she was diagnosed from a very early age. She had the stereotypical symptoms, which are the symptoms you primarily see in boys. She had the hyperactivity, the impulsivity. My sister expressed overt aggression and was very rambunctious and hyperactive. I expressed covert aggression, internal. I fall under the inattentive aspect of ADHD. I didn't struggle academically, but I still had a lot of trouble at school. I had a lot of trouble with relationships with my peers. I had a lot of trouble with relationships with my teachers. I struggled with emotional dysregulation. I was always emotionally unstable. I was very defiant and I would argue with my mom all the time. She used to call me her little tornado because I would just snap. I always had racing thoughts. I couldn't focus on things. If I was pushed to do it, I could. It just took that extra push, and I mean an extra push. So if I had the structure, I would be okay. And school, middle school, high school, that took zero effort. I would do my homework maybe before class started, and if at all, and I would always pass the test. So I had straight A's. I made National Honor Roll. It wasn't until I started to have risky sexual behavior in high school, and I really struggled with relationships, like even with my best friends, I just couldn't relate. I was diagnosed by a psychologist that I saw for therapy, and I continued seeing him, and I was also prescribed medication, and I hated it. So I tried medication for a bit. I tried it again in college when I was struggling and hated it again. And I stopped taking it. Eventually, my impulsivity and defiant behaviors got me into trouble, and I found the drug scene. So I made my way into recovery, and I started seeing a psychologist as well as working with my family doctor about my medication-assisted treatment, Suboxone, and possibly this ADHD diagnosis. I completely ignored. I pretended like I didn't have this diagnosis, but it came up again. The thing is that when I started treating my ADHD, life just got so much easier. so much easier. I wish I had done it sooner. I wish I had known. I wish I had had the right treatment team. I wish I had tried different forms of medication as well as the therapy. People are so quick to say that medication is overprescribed and it's our first line of defense. And that is not the case for me. I was in therapy for a very long time before medication was introduced, and I didn't like it and I went off of it, but I stayed in therapy. My sister did talk therapy, play therapy, all types of different testing at school, and medication was added into it, and eventually she got off of it. She eventually did get back on medication. I think she's doing very well. When people hear about my diagnosis with ADHD, there's a lot of things I'm told. People just make assumptions and they give me these blanket statements.
I don't look like I'm ADHD.
I work very hard to be like I am, and I'm trying so hard to do this. This isn't just me living effortlessly. This is the culmination of all my different coping mechanisms that I've learned, the life skills that I've put in place. This takes a lot of work all the time. People like to also tell me that
I'm not in recovery
because I'm taking medication for my ADHD. That's also making assumptions as to what medication I'm taking, and that's also making assumptions about my recovery that you just can't make. Medication for mental illness, prescribed by a doctor, taken as directed, it's fine, guys. We have lived in this backwards view of recovery for so long. This abstinence model, which somehow also means not treating other disorders, because science and medicine shows that treating these disorders in whatever way works best for the individual will promote long-term recovery, which is what I've been able to maintain by treating my ADHD. People just think they know. They think that because I'm taking this medicine,
I must be getting high from it.
Because if they take it, they might get high.
You don't have ADHD.
That's why you're going to feel like that. It feels totally different.
It slows my mind down.
There's no speeding it up and going crazy, and no, I barely exist normally when I take it, and that's okay. I've reached a point where I'm accepting my diagnosis and I'm accepting where I'm at in life, and I'm in a much better place than I was 10 years ago, and I'm proud of that. And I'm not ashamed to admit that I have ADHD anymore, and I wish I would have said something sooner. I chose not to share it because I didn't feel like it detracted from my recovery journey, but I really was selling myself short. I really wasn't standing up for people with ADHD, especially not for people with ADHD and addiction. If you've made it this far, leave a little heart, like a black heart, because that's my favorite one. But yeah, thanks guys. I will see you in the next video.